I'd like to have you talk a little bit about the partnership between the church and the new Montessori school. I don't know who wants to lead off. How you found each other.
Oh, you always have good answers about that.
Well, as before, I attributed it to divine providence. I'm still not entirely sure how that came about, but somebody knew that this building was here at any rate, and contacted us that way. And then there was another contact, and we had a little get together with I think you were there, and maybe Paige and a couple other folks.
Right.
In that initial gathering, walked through the building. I showed them what spaces might be available, and they were looking now, having been through several spaces with the fire marshal. They were looking for those things that they knew to look for with respect to what would need to be done, and we seem to already meet a lot of requirements, particularly the width of the hallways was a big issue, as well as the exit door here in this big room, and so we just started from there, really. And
Doug, tell me a little bit about the church and about yourself.
Okay, well,
what's the history of the
Grace
church?
Covenant Presbyterian Church. It's been here in this location probably 60, maybe about 60 years, close to 60 years probably. Let's see, there, I can't remember exactly on the cornerstone, 55, 57 maybe, when this building was built. So it's been a part of this neighborhood for a good long time. Was actually this building was literally built by people who lived in this neighborhood, by and large, and it was very much a neighborhood church for a lot of years, and then as things happen over time, demographics change and people move, and the church became, unfortunately, less a part of the neighborhood than it had been. And so I've been here. I'm going into my 10th year here as pastor, and my hope has been all along that we would find a good way to really reconnect with the surrounding neighborhood, and really become a vital part of the neighborhood, and an important part that was important to the neighborhood as well. And then these folks came along, and seemed to have, or at least what they said, many of the same goals for the school that I really had for the church in terms of the community. In the last few years, I've gotten really interested in the whole issue of kind of community development, particularly along the lines of what the Create West Virginia folks are doing with that whole creative economy and creative communities idea. And then when I saw their name, the Charleston Montessori, a creative community school, I thought, well, that couldn't be more perfect. So it just seemed to work. It just seemed to fit together really, really well.
Are you originally from Charleston or not?
No, not at all.
Okay,
no.
That's what
I grew up in southeastern Virginia.
Okay.
Newport News, Williamsburg area. My wife is from Charlotte, and we moved up here from Charlotte.
Right.
So, but we've been in West Virginia for, I guess, about 13 years.
Yeah. Jennifer, tell me a little bit about Montessori in general, and just give me a summary. What's your kind of quick definition of Montessori education?
Okay, that's a broad question. Montessori education, you follow the child. That's the classic quote of how you develop the educational program, is that you're following the child, you're meeting individual child's needs, and you develop the curriculum, the environment based on the children. And it's not a teacher-led educational system, it's the student-led. The student becomes responsible for their own education, for themselves, and you're really building upon a foundation part by part to create the whole child so they can reach their human potential. The materials are phenomenal, the philosophy is phenomenal.
Tell me a little bit about Maria Montessori and the history of Montessori. Do you know that much?
Well, I know.
You should.
Yes. Maria Montessori. Well, it is an educational philosophy that was developed, over 100 years ago. But yet, the philosophy itself stands strong, and Yeah, I don't think I want to try to quote any facts. If you want to know that one, go.
Tell me a little bit how the classroom works at a Montessori school and the concept, especially with the younger children.
With the 3 to 6 year old classroom, the students really are guided by the adults, but even a 3-year-old is led to take care of themselves. They're presented lessons, and then it's for them to become responsible for choosing their own lessons and following through with them, putting them back on the shelf, taking care of themselves. They take care of the environment. As they mature, a typical 3 to 6 year old might be working next to a child, and in their mind, they're working with them, but just physically being next to them. And as they get older, they learn to work with 1 or 2 other people. And then as they mature in the 6 to 9 year old classroom, now you're working with a larger group. You become part of the whole classroom community. And as they keep growing and maturing, then their community broadens. So by the upper 8, 9, 10 year olds, you get into they're now part of the school community, and then wanting to reach out into the broader community outside the school system, which has led us to Minnerly being a great school to start a community. Montessori philosophy is a great base for a community school, because that is where you're leading the child to become independent and take care of themselves and eventually be ready to branch out into the community, to give back to the community ultimately in the end.
Right. What ages will you serve at the new Charleston Montessori?
We will serve 3 to 12-year-olds.
And how are those broken up, or how does the Montessori education, are those by kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, or how are those?
Right, it's broken into the 3 to 6 year olds are in one classroom. That's the primary classroom, and that's your pre-K kindergarten age. And then we have the 6 to 12 year old classroom, which would be your first grade through 6th grade. Okay,
great. And the structure of the classroom, is it broken out in categories of types of activities, or, how is that set up? Kind of take me through the layout of a typical Montessori classroom.
Right, the lessons are set up on the shelf, so that you have your prepared environment, so everything is ready pretty much for the whole year, though you add and take away from each lesson depending on what the children's needs are. But you have an area for language, you have an area for math, botany, zoology, geography, astronomy, in the sciences, physical science, chemistry, and so on. But the different areas have each individual lessons, and they build upon each other. That for the most part, one lesson builds upon another, that you need to master one before moving on to another one.
Right. Tell me about a lesson. If I'm a new Montessori student and I haven't taken the lesson, what's involved in that?
Right. If a child has not been presented a lesson, typically they will not take it off the shelf. That they're presented the lesson before they go choose it off the shelf. So if I see that a child looks like they're ready to move into a new area, another topic, they're very interested in multiplication and in a new fashion, I guess, then I would go choose a multiplication lesson that would meet the style in which they would learn. And so I present it to them. Now it's available for them to go choose. And it doesn't mean that I'm the only one that would present the lesson. The other children also can present the lessons to each other.
So there is some I guess, teaching within the classroom by the individual students then?
Absolutely. A younger child could even be teaching an older child a lesson, the older, younger. So the peers of different ages are all working together and teaching lessons to each other.
Great. I guess the only other question I have is just from the standpoint of the school year. Walk us through the school year. When does it start? When does it end? What's involved with the school year?
We'll be starting in the fall. August 23rd is our first day of school, and we run all the way till June 3rd is our last day.
Okay.